I never thought the day would come when my life would intertwine with something far greater than myself, something beyond reason, beyond logic, beyond the world as we know it. But it did. And it all started with a phone call. It was a cold morning in February when I received the assignment. As a journalist, I had covered many stories, some tragic, some bizarre, some that never saw the light of day. But this was different. A Hollywood legend, a man who had vanished from the spotlight decades ago, had been found dead under circumstances that defied explanation. Gene Hackman, a name that had once dominated movie posters, now etched into a mystery that no one could unravel. The details were chilling. His wife, Betsy Arakawa, had died alongside him. Their bodies had been discovered inside their quiet home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Except it wasn't as simple as that. The front door had been left wide open, as if someone had fled. The family dog had been locked inside its cage, left to starve. Pills had been scattered across the floor, yet neither body showed signs of an overdose. And then there was the phone call. A single, outgoing call had been made from Hackman's phone just moments before his death. The number? Unregistered. The recipient? Unknown. And the last recorded words on that call? It's happening. Those words haunted me. What was happening? And who had he been trying to warn? I wasn't the only one asking questions. The police were baffled. Hackman had been in good health for his age. He had no history of illness, no enemies, no financial disputes that could hint at foul play. His life had been peaceful, almost too peaceful, as if he had been deliberately staying away from something or someone. And then there was the other side of the story, the side no one wanted to talk about. Rumors had begun to surface that Hackman had been growing anxious in the weeks leading up to his death. Friends had noticed a change in his behavior. He spoke less, watched more. He had stopped answering his phone at odd hours, refused to meet with certain people. And then, just days before his passing, he had confided in an old acquaintance, saying only, "I need to tell someone before it's too late." But too late for what? I had to find out. I arrived in Santa Fe before the sun had fully risen, the icy wind biting against my skin. The house stood in eerie silence, untouched since the police had sealed it off. The weight of the story pressed down on me, but it wasn't just the journalist in me that felt it. Something deeper, something I couldn't yet explain, was pulling me forward. The investigation was in its early stages, but I had sources willing to talk. I met with a local officer who had been one of the first on the scene. He had seen many things in his career, but this case had shaken him. "I don't know what happened in that house," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I do know one thing. Hackman wasn't alone when he died." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, looking around as if afraid someone might be listening. Then, leaning in closer, he said, "We found 2 cell phones on the table. One was still on an outgoing call. The line had been disconnected, but we traced the last connection. And you're not going to believe where it led." He handed me a slip of paper with a location scribbled on it. The address belonged to a small, nondescript building on the outskirts of town. A place with no name, no business records. A place that, according to official documents, didn't exist. I knew, in that moment, that I had just stepped into something far bigger than a Hollywood actor's death. And I had no idea how deep it would go. A special message for you. Before we continue with this story, I want to take a moment to connect with you, our incredible community. Every video we create is made with passion, and your support means everything to us. If you're enjoying this journey, I invite you to be part of something special. Subscribe to our channel and leave a like. It helps us keep bringing you these deep and meaningful stories. And now, a special invitation just for you. I want to mention your name in our next video. If you want to be featured and receive a personal message, comment your name and your city below. Imagine hearing your name being called out to thousands of people. It's your moment to shine. Stay with us until the end of this video, because we'll be revealing who is chosen for today's special shout-out. Now, let's continue this incredible journey. The moment my fingers traced over the slip of paper, a deep unease settled in my chest. The address scribbled on it led to a place that, on paper, shouldn't exist. A place Gene Hackman had dialed just moments before his death.
But why?
I wasted no time. I drove straight to the outskirts of Santa Fe, my hands gripping the wheel tighter than I realized. The address led me to a small, worn-down building with no signs, no windows, just a rusted metal door with a single keypad entry. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. The silence behind that door wasn't just emptiness. It felt calculated, like someone was watching from the other side, waiting. Just as I turned to leave, a voice cut through the wind. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around. An old man stood behind me, wrapped in a heavy coat, his face partially hidden by the shadow of his hat. "Who are you?" I asked. He ignored my question. "That door's been locked for years. No one's been inside since." He hesitated, then shook his head. "Since he left." My heart pounded. Since who left? He exhaled slowly, as if weighing whether to speak. Finally, he murmured, "Hackman." A chill ran down my spine. "Gene Hackman." I stepped closer. "You're saying he was here?" The old man looked around nervously. "Not just here. He owned this place." I felt the air leave my lungs. Owned? What was this building? He hesitated again, glancing at the door before muttering, "A refuge." The word sent a shiver through me. A refuge for what? He didn't answer. Instead, he took a step back, shaking his head. "You need to leave before they know you're asking questions." My skin prickled. "Who?" He turned away without another word, disappearing down the empty road, his figure swallowed by the dust and wind. I stared at the door, my pulse hammering. I wanted to break inside, to see what Hackman had left behind. But something about the way the man had spoken, his urgency, his fear, made me hesitate. I needed more information. I spent the next day tracking down anyone who had ever crossed paths with Hackman in Santa Fe. Most people spoke about him fondly, how he had left Hollywood behind for a quieter life, how he spent his days writing, painting, living peacefully with his wife. But there were gaps in the story. A bookstore owner mentioned that Hackman often bought books on ancient religious texts and encrypted languages. A retired journalist recalled how, years ago, Hackman had inquired about old newspaper archives covering government experiments in the 60s. And then there was the nurse from a local clinic who remembered him coming in one night, pale and shaken, whispering about a presence he couldn't escape. Each new piece of information twisted the narrative into something darker, more complex. Hackman hadn't just been an aging actor enjoying his retirement. He had been searching for something, running from something. And then I found the voicemail. It was buried deep in a police report, a call that had been overlooked in the chaos of his death. A message left just hours before he died. I pressed play. A voice crackled through the speaker. It was Hackman's. "They know," he whispered. "They know I've seen it." The message cut off. The weight of those words pressed against my chest. They know. Who was they? And what had he seen? Something was terribly, terribly wrong. And I had only scratched the surface. The weight of Hackman's voicemail sat heavy on my chest. They know. They know I've seen it. Those words weren't just the ramblings of an old man. There was fear in his voice. Genuine, paralyzing fear. I replayed the message over and over, dissecting every word, every breath. But the recording ended abruptly, leaving me with more questions than answers. Who were they? What had Hackman seen? And, most importantly, was it worth dying for? The next morning, I found myself parked outside the mysterious building again. The old man's warning from the previous night echoed in my mind, but I couldn't ignore the pull I felt toward this place. Something told me that whatever Hackman had uncovered, whatever had terrified him enough to make that final call, it was inside this building. I stepped out of the car and approached the rusted metal door. The keypad entry looked ancient, but surprisingly, the numbers weren't completely worn down. Someone had used it, recently. I tried the handle. Locked. Then, out of pure impulse, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the slip of paper with the address. My fingers traced over the numbers, the ink slightly smudged from how many times I had folded and unfolded it. A thought crept into my mind. What if this wasn't just an address? What if? I typed the numbers into the keypad. For a moment, nothing happened. Then click. My breath hitched. The lock released. I glanced around, heart pounding. The street was empty, the air thick with silence. It felt as if time itself was holding its breath, waiting for me to decide. Slowly, I pushed the door open. The room inside was cold, unnaturally so. The scent of old books and dust filled the air, but underneath it, there was something else. Something metallic. Blood? No. Something worse. I stepped inside, the dim light from the doorway casting long shadows across the floor. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with files, maps, and handwritten notes. This wasn't just an abandoned building, it was an archive. And then I saw it. In the center of the room, illuminated by the thin sliver of light breaking through the dust, sat a chair. Not just any chair. A chair with straps. A chair bolted to the ground. A chair that had held someone against their will. My breath came out shaky as I stepped closer. My fingers brushed against the old leather straps, cracked from time, but still sturdy enough to restrain someone. And then I noticed the carvings. Etched into the armrests, deep into the wood, were 3 words. They see everything. A shiver ran down my spine. I turned to the shelves, pulling out the first file I could reach. The paper was yellowed with age, filled with documents stamped with official seals I didn't recognize. But at the bottom of each page, written in small, precise handwriting, was a name. Gene Hackman. My stomach turned. I grabbed another file. Then another. Then another. Each one had his name on it. This wasn't just some random place. This was Hackman's secret. He had been collecting information. He had been documenting something. And whatever it was, it had been worth killing for. A noise. I froze. Footsteps. Someone was outside. I barely had time to react before a shadow passed in front of the doorway. My heart leaped into my throat. There was no way out except the way I had come in. I pressed myself against the shelves, forcing myself to breathe quietly. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. A pause. Then, the doorknob turned. I clenched my fists, bracing myself. Then suddenly, the footsteps retreated. I waited, counting each second. Then, after what felt like forever, I crept toward the door and peered outside. Empty. Whoever it was, they hadn't left. They were watching. I couldn't stay. I grabbed the files, shoving them into my bag before slipping out the door. Every instinct in me screamed to run, but I forced myself to walk, casual, calm, as if I belonged here. As I reached my car, I could feel eyes on me. Someone knew I had been inside. And if Hackman had died for what he found, I had just become their next target. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the chair, the straps, the haunting words carved into the wood. They see everything. What had Hackman gotten himself into? The files I had taken sat on my desk, their pages yellowed and fragile, whispering secrets of something long buried. I hesitated before opening them, my fingers trembling over the worn edges. But I had to know. I flipped open the first file. Inside, I found letters handwritten, urgent, desperate. Some were addressed to no one, some to people I didn't recognize, but one was different. It was written to Hackman himself. And it wasn't signed with a name. It was signed with a cross. My breath caught. The letter was short. Its ink faded, but still legible. You have seen. And now they have seen you. Do not speak. Do not run. The watchers are already near. But there is still time. Find the one who knows. He is waiting where the sky meets the stone. My pulse quickened. The one who knows? The sky meets the stone? What did that even mean? I rifled through more pages, scanning them for anything that might explain. And then I saw it. A photo. An old, grainy black and white picture of a church. A modest, worn-down building standing against a rocky desert landscape. There was writing scrawled in the corner of the photo. St. Michael's. The answer is in the bell tower. My heart pounded. A church. A place of faith. I pulled up my laptop and searched for St. Michael's in New Mexico. There were several results, but only one matched the photo. A small, abandoned mission, deep in the desert, hours away from Santa Fe. Hackman had been chasing something. something connected to that place. And now, so was I. The drive stretched endlessly beneath a burning sky. The road twisted through the desert, dust curling up in the rear-view mirror. My hands were tight on the wheel, my thoughts spiraling. Was I making a mistake? Who had written that letter? And most importantly, was I being followed? I checked the mirror again. The road behind me was empty, but that didn't mean I wasn't being watched. Hours later, I finally saw it, the small, crumbling silhouette of St. Michael's. I parked a short distance away, my car blending into the landscape. Stepping outside, I felt the weight of the silence. Not a single bird, not a single gust of wind. I approached the building cautiously. The doors were cracked, the wood dry and splintered from years of neglect. Inside, the air was thick with dust and something older, something sacred. The pews were warped with time, the altar worn smooth by years of prayer. And then I saw it, the bell tower. A narrow staircase led up into the darkness. My legs felt heavy as I climbed, each step creaking beneath my weight. The tower smelled of old stone and something else, something almost electrical. At the top, a single rope hung from the ceiling, attached to the weathered bronze bell. But it wasn't the bell that caught my eye. It was what was carved into the wood beneath it. A symbol, the same symbol I had seen in the letter. The cross. Beneath it, more words had been scratched into the surface. Faint, almost erased by time, but still readable. Seek the light, but beware the ones who watch in the dark. A shiver ran down my spine. And then, a sound from below. I wasn't alone. A special message for you. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to connect with you, our incredible community. Every story we share is created with dedication and passion, and your support means everything to us. If you're enjoying this journey, take just a second to hit the like button. It helps us continue bringing these powerful stories to you. And now, we have something special for you. I want to mention your name in our next video. If you'd like to be featured and receive a special shout-out, comment your name and your city below. Imagine hearing your name called out to thousands of people. It's your moment to shine. And make sure to watch until the end, because today, we'll reveal who is chosen to receive a special message. Now, let's keep going. This story is about to take a turn you won't believe. The creaking sound from below sent a jolt through my body. Someone else was inside the church. I held my breath, pressing my back against the cold stone wall of the bell tower. My pulse hammered in my ears, drowning out the silence. The only exit was the way I had come, the narrow staircase leading back down into the dark. Whoever was down there, they weren't moving, waiting, watching. I had seen enough in my years as a journalist to know when someone wanted to be heard, and when someone wanted to stay hidden. I swallowed hard, forcing my breath to slow. I had to move. Steeling myself, I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone, opening the camera and switching to video mode. If something happened to me, at least there would be a record of it. With slow, measured steps, I began my descent. The old wooden stairs groaned under my weight, but I moved cautiously, keeping my back against the wall. The church was still, so eerily still that it felt unnatural. Then I heard it. A whisper. A voice so faint, so hushed, I almost convinced myself I had imagined it. But no, it was real. It came from the far end of the church, near the altar. I reached the last step and froze. A figure stood in the dim light, their silhouette barely visible against the flickering candles that had not been there before. My throat went dry. I hadn't lit those candles. They had been waiting for me. The figure turned slightly, the glow of the flames catching the edge of their face. An old man, his features lined with age, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. Fear, sadness, or maybe something worse. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice barely more than a breath. I forced myself to speak. "Who are you?" The old man studied me, his gaze flickering to the bag slung over my shoulder, the bag that held Hackman's files. His jaw tightened. "You found the records," he murmured. "Then it's already too late." My fingers clenched around the strap of my bag. Too late for what? A heavy silence stretched between us. Then, finally, he took a slow step forward. for the truth to stay buried. I didn't trust him. Not yet. But he was the first person I had met who knew something. We sat at one of the old wooden pews, the candlelight casting long shadows across the walls. Outside, the wind had picked up, howling through the cracks in the old church, as if the desert itself was whispering secrets. The old man introduced himself as Brother Thomas. He wasn't a priest, at least not anymore. He had been waiting here. Not for me specifically, but for someone like me. Someone who would follow the clues. Someone who would find Hackman's final message. He knew they were coming for him, Thomas said, his voice laced with regret. But no one wanted to listen. I swallowed hard. Who? Thomas glanced toward the entrance of a church, as if expecting someone to be standing there. His voice dropped to a whisper. The ones who watch in the dark. A chill crawled up my spine. I reached into my bag and pulled out the photograph I had taken from the files, the one with the words scratched onto the wood. Seek the light, but beware the ones who watch in the dark. I placed it in front of him. Tell me what this means, I demanded. Thomas exhaled slowly, his fingers tracing over the edge of the paper. It means you're in more danger than you realize. According to Thomas, Hackman had spent years uncovering something that wasn't meant to be found. It started with a vision, Thomas explained. He told me once that he saw something that changed everything he thought he knew about this world. My breath caught. A vision? Are you saying this was spiritual? I asked carefully. Thomas met my gaze. What do you think? I didn't know what to think. Was Hackman just an old man unraveling in his final years? Or had he truly seen something beyond the veil of this world? But then I remembered the fear in his voice in that final voicemail. They know I've seen it. If this had just been the delusions of an aging man, why had he been so terrified? And why was I starting to feel that same fear now? Before I could ask more questions, Thomas stiffened. The flickering candlelight trembled. A shadow moved outside. Not the wind. Not an illusion. Something real. My pulse quickened. They found you, Thomas whispered. The doors to the church creaked, shifting under some unseen force. Go, Thomas urged, pushing me toward the side entrance. Now. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my bag and bolted for the small wooden door at the side of the church. Behind me, the main doors groaned open. And then, the candles blew out. The church was swallowed by darkness. And I ran. The cold air bit at my skin as I sprinted away from the church, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I didn't dare look back. I knew if I did, I would see them. The ones who had been watching. The ones Hackman had feared. The ones who had just found me. My car was parked a short distance away, hidden behind a cluster of dry, twisted bushes. I dove inside, fumbling with the keys. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped them. Come on, come on. The engine roared to life, and I slammed my foot on the gas. Dust erupted behind me as I tore away from the crumbling church, the abandoned mission shrinking in the rearview mirror. I didn't slow down. Not until I was miles away, deep in the desert, where even the moon seemed afraid to shine too brightly. Only then did I pull over, hands gripping the wheel, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I had to think. Everything was spiraling faster than I could process. I had started this journey searching for answers about Hackman's death. But now, I wasn't just uncovering a mystery. I was living it. And if I wasn't careful, I would end up just like him. I needed to know what Hackman had seen. The files, the church, the hidden messages, they all pointed to something bigger. Something he had tried to warn people about. I reached for my bag, pulling out the old documents I had taken from the secret building. There were pages upon pages of notes, sketches, and symbols, some of them in languages I didn't recognize. But one thing stood out. A date. February 26th, the day Hackman died. Next to it, scrawled in his own handwriting, were 2 words. Final warning. A cold chill ran down my spine. Had he known the exact day he would die? Or worse, had someone told him? I flipped through more pages, searching for anything that could explain. And then I found it. A drawing. It was rough, hurried, but the lines were unmistakable.
A door.
The same one I had found in the abandoned building.
Hackman had been there before me.
He had seen what was inside. And something inside that room had changed everything. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I drove. I didn't know exactly where I was going, but the road was leading me somewhere. That's how it had felt this whole time. Like I wasn't just searching for answers. Like I was being pulled toward them. The stars above were unnaturally bright, stretching endlessly over the vast desert. In the silence of the night, I felt it. That strange presence I couldn't explain. Was it fear? Was it something more? Then, out of nowhere, my phone rang. The sound shattered the silence, making me jump. I checked the screen. No caller ID. For a long moment, I hesitated. Then, slowly, I pressed answer. I put the phone to my ear. Silence. Then, "You're getting too close." My blood turned to ice. The line went dead. I pulled the car over, my hands trembling. I was being watched. And whoever they weren't going to let me go much further. A message to our community. Before we move forward, I want to take a moment to thank you for being here. This channel isn't just about stories. It's about a community of people who seek the truth, who explore the unknown together. We don't make money doing this. We do it because we love it. Because there are stories that need to be told, mysteries that need to be uncovered. And if you're enjoying this journey, if you want to support us in continuing to bring these deep and powerful stories to life, your like and subscription mean everything to us. It may seem small, but it helps in ways you wouldn't believe. So if you're with us, if you believe in what we're doing, take just a second to subscribe and leave a like. It's free, and it's one of the best ways you can help keep this journey going. Now, hold on tight, because in the final chapter, everything will be revealed. I sat in my car for what felt like an eternity, staring at my phone. The voice on the other end had been calm, deliberate. "You're getting too close."
Who were they?
And more importantly, how did they know where I was? I gripped the steering wheel, forcing myself to breathe. I had two choices. Turn back, forget everything, and pretend none of this ever happened, or keep going. I didn't even need to think. I put the car back in drive. The last clue Hackman had left, the drawing of the door, was leading me somewhere. I didn't know exactly what I would find, but I knew it was tied to his final moments. I followed the road deep into the desert, further than I had ever driven before. Hours passed. The gas gauge dropped lower. Still I drove. Then, just as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, I saw it. A solitary structure, standing alone against the endless sky. It looked like a bunker, its concrete walls worn and cracked with age. There was no sign, no markings, nothing to indicate why it was here. But I knew Hackman had been here. And now so was I. The entrance was locked, rusted shut. But after searching the perimeter, I found another way inside, an opening near the back, just big enough to squeeze through. I climbed in, my heart pounding. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust and something else, something ancient. The walls were covered in strange markings, symbols I had never seen before. And then I saw it, the door from Hackman's sketch. It stood at the end of the narrow corridor, massive and looming, as if it had been waiting for me. This was it, the final piece. I stepped forward, reaching for the handle, and the world shifted. For a moment, everything became light, blinding, overwhelming. I stumbled back, covering my eyes. But even through closed lids, the light pierced through me. And then I heard him, a voice, not from around me, but from within me. "You were meant to see." Tears burned in my eyes. "This is why you were called." I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. And then, just as quickly as it came, the light was gone. The silence rushed back in. I opened my eyes. The door was open. Inside the room, there were no more secrets, only truth. Hackman had left behind something more than just files and letters. He had left behind a message, one that had cost him his life, one that I now carried. And as I stepped into the morning sun, I knew the world would never be the same again. A special message just for you. Before we end this journey, I have something very special to share. Jane and Gens from Crown Point, Indiana, and from Sydney, Australia. This message is for you. You are part of this incredible community, and we want you to know that you are seen, you are valued, and you are truly special. Thank you for being with us on this journey. This is your moment. Your light shines here with us. And now I have something important for everyone watching. This story is just the beginning. If you want to uncover a truth that could change your life forever, then click the video appearing on your screen right now. I promise, it will be revelatory in ways you never expected. And before you go, take just a moment to leave a like and comment Amen below.
Why?
Because when you do, you invite blessings into your life. Let's keep this journey going together. I'll see you in the next video.
May you continue to be blessed.